Thanks so much for joining us on the Faith-Based Security Network. My name is Matt Stedham. We are glad that you're joining us today. Joining me today is Cody Blocker, who is a church security specialist and director of security at Lincoln Christian School. Cody, how are you today?
Very good, sir. How are you?
Very good. Glad to have you on here. And part of the reason that we have you on talking today is you are going to be one of our featured speakers at the Wisconsin Church Safety and Security event that's on September 6th in Racine, Wisconsin. And so we're looking forward to that event. Anybody in that area or even if you're not in that area and you just want to go see Wisconsin, we would love for you to be able to join us for that. You can find information about that event by going to our website, fbsnamerica.com/events, where you can find information about the Wisconsin event and other events that we have upcoming in your area. So, Cody, I just want to ask you a little bit. Can you give us a little bit of background on you? What brings you to the security and specifically to the church security world?
Yeah, so two things I would say. I'm one of those people that have a variety of little jobs in my background. I was a firefighter for a while. I was an EMT, that sort of thing. But for about 10 years, I worked as the director of security for a large mega church in the Midwest. And after that, I worked full time doing executive protection work for high net worth and high threat clients both in the U.S. and overseas. And so there was a little bit overlap of those things, but either of those jobs, what I did, did a lot of training and did a lot of things like that. And a lot of that training, I didn't utilize, right? There's lots of training that we don't utilize. But what I found is that there was some training that I used all the time, every day, which is behavior recognition stuff, which we're going to talk about in Wisconsin. But anyway, that's kind of how I got involved in the church security consulting world, and I now work with church security teams and church administrations and boards and that type of thing. So.
Yeah, that's a world I'm very familiar with on kind of on all those fronts. The church front, the fire front. That's good to know about you. So, So tell me a little bit. What have you found interesting, or maybe let me narrow it down a little bit more. What have you found as the biggest challenge in communicating about church security to church leaders or church members? What's the biggest challenge you found in getting them to think about church security?
Yeah, well, I would say early on in my career, I think my answer to that always was the biggest challenge was getting church leadership and churches and church boards, just on board with the concept and getting teams in place and putting reasonable preventative measures in place and that sort of thing. That's really not the main issue I see now. The main issue I have now, or that I hear all the time, is that, Cody, we have a team. We've been doing the thing for a while, but we just don't know what really to train on. We don't know what to do. Nothing ever happens at our church. Nothing has happened at our church. So nothing has happened in the past. Therefore, nothing probably will happen in the past. So that we just kind of feel we don't know what to do, right? So it's kind of what is a training issue of what you should train on. But the second thing is, I tell them that, okay, just because you haven't had anything happen in the past doesn't mean it's not going to happen tomorrow. And regardless if you've had if you call it a security issue or a safety issue, whatever that is, you don't have to have those issues to be doing something. Every day, every time you're on shift, every time somebody walks in your door, you should be doing some level of behavior recognition. And we can get into specifically what that looks like, but behavior recognition is a good answer to that problem because you can do it every day, all the time. It's not loud or offensive or distracting or anything. So I talk to them about that, and that usually gets them going or gives them some direction because it's very applicable.
So as we're thinking about that, being aware of things that are coming, or trying to see things coming before they get there, right? I think
Right,
about,
right.
the imagery of driving a vehicle, and the faster you drive, the further out ahead you got to watch. But if you're just
Yeah.
staring at the front of your hood, you're never going to see stuff coming. And I feel like a lot of church security teams get complacent. They get that way, right?
Yes.
I'm used to seeing the same old thing, so I don't know what to look for. So
Yeah.
you're gonna be talking to our membership on Saturday. Actually, this video should go up on Friday, so tomorrow, as you're watching this, possibly, Cody's gonna be doing our Saturday sheepdog session. That's something that's usually reserved just for our members, but for this Saturday only, you can join us for that. You can go to our website, fbsnamerica.com/sheepdog, and you can be able to find Cody's information there, link to that, or possibly even see it after the fact. But he's going to be talking about that in great detail. So we're not going to get into all that detail today, but Cody, what I would love for you to do is kind of give us the basics, maybe the 30,000 foot overview of what do church security operators need to think about as far as seeing a threat before it actually occurs.
Yes. So the thing I would say is the first thing that gets us going here is we have to ask the question is when do bad things happen, right? When does violence happen? I always start off with that, and that helps frame the entire problem and the entire solution. So there's a lot of answers to that question is when do bad things happen? To me, the best answer is, from my experience, is when do bad things happen and when does violence happen? It happens now, right? It doesn't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen later. You can't schedule it. It happens when you're either there or you're not. Whoever's there is the ones who respond. Whatever you have on you, that's what you respond with. That's just what you get. You and I both know from the fire department, when that alarm goes off, it just, whatever you have, whatever training and whatever you have is all you have, right? So that helps frame it. So because the violence happens now, we don't get a say in the time of the attack. That's the bad guy owns that. He owns the time and place of the attack. But we get to own it's our home turf, and we get to defend this every day. So we need to be really, really good about seeing what belongs here and what doesn't, right? So because the attack happens fast, when we respond as protectors and as sheepdogs, we have to react quickly and aggressively against the threat. So we fight the threat, but we also fight time, right? We need time on our side. So just as you described, if I know the bad guy's coming in the door, I would rather see and address that way out in the parking lot before they even get out of their car or something. Wait, instead of letting him park, get out of the car, walk in, then walk inside, then come in the sanctuary. Now when we deal with the same problem, the environment is much more complex, and we have another set of safety issues. So awareness ahead of time buys us time. And so and the more time we have, again, my experience is the more time I have to respond, I'm going to make a better response selection of my training. Does that make sense? That's kind of
Oh,
how I
abs-
frame it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just, we were both at the SOS conference down in San Antonio, and that was a common
Yeah.
theme that I was hearing from a lot of those
Yes.
speakers was, hey, you want
Yeah.
as much advance notice as you possibly can. Push your perimeter out, get people out, see things before they actually come into your building and cause problems. So,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
think is the biggest thing to look for? What's the number one thing if we could only look for one thing, what are we going to keep our eyes
Yeah.
open so that we can see threats coming?
Yeah, and obviously there's little details, but if we start big, 30,000 foot, like we're talking about, you have to go back to the concept of how I was originally trained for counter surveillance, doing executive protection work. And I was trained by a former Secret Service agent, and he taught us. He said, hey, the Secret Service that deals the part of the Secret Service that deals with a counterfeit currency. They said, how do you learn how to spot a counterfeit? And they taught us that you learn to spot a counterfeit by seeing what the real thing looks like, right? You don't just learn about counterfeit, you learn about the real thing. And you can get so good with identifying the real thing, then the counterfeit is easy to spot. Okay. So that concept is what we use for counter surveillance and behavior recognition, meaning I don't just want to look for a certain thing. The first step I need to do, because it's a 3-step process. First step is I have to know what's normal within my setting. Whatever's in my realm of protection, whatever's in my church or my city, my time of day. Every social group has a little bit different personality, right? My church, the personality, the feel, the vibe that you get at my church is going to be different than your church, right? A big church, different than a small church. Even with our church where I was at for a lot of years, we had 3 services, 1 on Saturday night, 2 on Sunday morning. And the Saturday night service was very different than the Sunday morning services, right? So you have to know what's normal. Whatever group I'm protecting, I have to see what's normal. That's step 1. If I know what's normal, then I'm more easily to spot what is abnormal, the thing that sticks out, right? And just because it's abnormal and just because it sticks out doesn't necessarily mean it's always a threat and we got to tackle it right now, but it does mean that it's different. And me as a security guide, as a protector, I need to keep track of that thing that's different until I can investigate further to know if it's a threat or not. So step 1 is to know what's normal. And step 2 is then you can know what's abnormal. And then the third step that most people forget about or don't train a lot about is you have to have a pre-made decision of what are you going to do about it, right? So it does you no good as a protector if you're standing there and being vigilant and you notice the person who stands out and you get that little spidey sense that goes off and you go, oh, that's abnormal. Okay, that doesn't do anything because now you have to act on it. What are you going to do? Are you going to call 911? Are you going to tackle the person? Are you going to go up to the person and introduce yourself and shake their hand, right? And do this aggressive friendliness thing? Am I going to get on my radio and call my supervisor? There's 100 things you could do, but you have to think of that ahead of time. So you need to learn what's normal, what's abnormal, and then what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Those pre-made decisions are vital. How are we going to think through this and making those decisions beforehand? Because standing around in the moment doesn't help you at all, right? Yeah. So when you see something that doesn't look right, that's how you respond.
Yeah,
so
maybe the response, maybe it's not even addressing the person or talking. Maybe it's just shifting my position. Maybe I just stand 10 feet closer or 5 feet farther away. Can I use that information and then use time, distance, and speed to help me respond better to protect people in case something does happen? There's lots of solutions there. So,
yeah, something doesn't look right. We need to act. How do we act? Well, that's part of that planning and part of what you're going to be discussing with people at the Sheepdog on Saturday and at the event in Wisconsin on September 6th. So if you would like to get more information about that event in Wisconsin, we would invite you again to visit our website, fbsnamerica.com/events, where you can find information about the Wisconsin event as well as other events that'll be happening in your area, including the SOS conference next year in Kentucky. We would love to see you there. We would also love to see you on Saturday as Cody's going to present to us on the Saturday Sheepdog Call. So Cody, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And we hope that our viewers will stay ready, willing, and able to defend their faith-based organizations. Take care.